Hello and welcome to another demonstrational video here at Emm-Bee Motorhomes. This time it's the 2019 Chausson Welcome 757. So we'll start with the cab. To open the bonnet on this, the key is required. Put the key into this slot here, turn it to the left once, and then while you're turning it to the right, lift the bonnet. Okay, controls underneath the bonnet then. We've got wash fluid, oil fill, your dipstick is just here, brake fluid, power steering and coolant. If you ever need to jump start this vehicle, then the positive and red terminal goes onto that little nodule there, and the black or earth cable goes onto this here. So that's if you ever need to jump start this vehicle or jump start another vehicle from it. Okay, working on around the motorhome then. We just open this door here. We've got the fuel filler. Okay, so that's where the diesel fuel goes, and then the AdBlue additive goes into the one underneath, into this one here. So that's an additive that's required for Euro 6 compliant engines. All the garages have got that now, so you can usually fill that up as you fill in your diesel. There's a warning on the dash to tell you when that's becoming low. Not to be ignored. If that's left to go empty, then it will go into limp home mode, which nobody wants. So that's your fuel fill. You've got a chassis plate here telling you about your weights. There's also one on the cross member underneath the bonnet, and the one on the cross member underneath the bonnet is the one to refer to. Regarding tyre pressures, it's best to refer to the actual tyres themselves, because in most cases motorhomes will use specialist camping tyres which are capable of being higher pressures than the standard van. To blank off the windscreen and cab area, it's got the blinds, so you just pinch these two together here, draw this front section across in a straight line, so keep this straight as you go in, and then there's a magnetic strip which holds it into position. When you're retracting this, just make sure you go back in a straight line, take it easy and slowly. When you put these back into position, just make sure that they clip in like so, because when you're cornering, inertia can take that across if it's not clipped in, obviously impeding your vision as you're driving. Exactly the same operation on the driver's side with the blind, and a very similar operation for the windscreen. You just pinch these two together here, and then the blind draws across on this runner here, and there's also one at the top. There's a little inset piece there, as you can see, that makes way for the arm on the rear view mirror which holds the reversing monitor. As you can see, the track is angled. Okay, you just got to make way for the wire, and then when you draw that one across, there's a magnetic strip which holds them together. You might just need to adjust the mirror as you're drawing this one across here. Again, when you're retracting this, just make sure that you're going back in a straight line. Take it easy and slowly, and make sure that this is clipped back into position to prevent it from sliding across as you're driving. The airbag module can be disabled via the key operation here. This has got captain swivel chairs, and to do that it's this adjustment, this bar here. So it's this bar here above the seat adjustment bar. So you push that in that direction and then push the seat around. That's what is required to swivel the seats around and make you lounge. Okay, working on around the motorhome then, the first thing we come to is the mains inlet. This is what powers the vehicle and lets the mains come into the motorhome. There is no cable in this motorhome, so it's going to require a cable. We sell those in the shop. It's simple, a simple means of just pushing the cable onto there. It's the end with the lid on, so that the cable has got like a lid on the end of it which lifts up, and the lid slides into this section here. To remove it, you push this blue bar down here, and that allows you to remove the cable from the motorhome. Directly behind this area here is a long bench seat, and the charger unit is just behind there. In this service locker here we have the water tank. So this is your fresh water tank that's going to feed your kitchen sink and your shower. To fill that, you slide this nozzle across, unscrew the cap on the end, put a hose pipe into here and just simply fill it until you get excess water pouring out of the other end. It is possible to see the rough level because this is an opaque tank and you can see the level rising as you fill it. In winter, it's very important that you drain all the water out of this tank. If water's left in here and it freezes, it's in danger of expanding as it forms ice and cracking the tank and all the associated pipework. So it's very important that you drain the whole motorhome down in winter, or indeed when you're not going to use it, because you don't really want stagnant water sitting in your tank. To drain this down, it's indicated on here via this lever here. So this is the drain valve for this freshwater tank. Okay, so there's two levels on this. You can drain it down to 20 litres, which allows you to calculate weights more accurately. 20 litres is 20 kilos, so that's the reason for this. Okay, so your maxi level, that means it'll fill the tank fully. When it's on mini level, like that, water will drain from the tank and it will drain this tank down to 20 litres. Okay, to fully drain this tank down, as you would need to in winter or whenever you're not using it, there's a tap just there with the blue tap on it. So it's a white housing with the blue tap on it. That's in the open position. If you turn it a quarter of a turn, then it will be in the closed position and will retain all the water in the tank. If that's open, you won't get any water in the tank at all. Okay, next to that in this locker we have the fuses and circuitry. So this is a bank of fuses for the mains voltage inlet. So you can actually test that you've got a main supply coming in by pressing this button here, this one here. If you do that and you've got a main supply coming in, then these will flick down. So this is like a circuit breaker that you would find in a domestic home. If they're in the down position, you won't get any main supply to the motorhome, or you've got a faulty appliance or there's a fault somewhere. This is a bank of 12 volt fuses and there's little pictures underneath those to indicate which fuse is associated with which circuit. So if you get a problem with any of the 12 volt circuit, like the lighting or the pump, etc., then that's your first place to check. Okay, so that's the service locker dealt with. Next to that, we've got a vent for the boiler. This is where it vents its exhaust if you're heating it on gas or whatever fuel this motorhome is. We'll come to that when we get to the control panel. But that's the vent for the boiler. It needs to be kept clean and free of debris. If you've got anything that's you park close to a hedge or a wall, sometimes it can pick up that it's not venting properly and it will switch the boiler off. So just make sure that that's kept clean. Next to that, we've got the gas locker. We'll require one gas bottle in here. 6 kilos Cala propane is required. Okay, so the bottle sits into there. This strap here keeps the bottle in position. This here is a pressure regulator, so it regulates the pressure from the bottle. It will require a flexible hose that screws onto this here. That then comes off and is screwed into the end of your bottle. So it doesn't come with that. We remove them because they perish, so they're not gas safe, so a new one is required. So that's where your gas goes. The gas is switched on and off via the tap on the top of the bottle. This is just a storage locker underneath the 2 single beds on this layout, and there's further access to storage there. The awning winder I can see is just on the base of that there. Okay, so this motorhome's been fitted with a rear view camera, and the camera is mounted just up there. Obviously the lens needs to be kept clean. If it's wet, it'll give a distorted vision, but that's where the camera is mounted. This model's been fitted with a bike rack to operate the bike rack. Slides down like that. The bikes sit on here. This is like a ratchet that you take off by pressing that red button there. You can see the ratchets. Take that off, put the bike on, slip that over the wheel to keep that in position. Same on the front and back wheel there. Exactly the same on that rail. And then these bars here are mounted onto the crossbar of the bike to keep them in position. So you can imagine the bikes are here like this. That bar's on the crossbar, the wheels are kept in position by those ratchets. Exactly the same with the shorter bar on there. Underneath that we've got the toilet, so when the toilet is full and requires emptying, you just press that button in like so, lift the handle up at the bottom on this cassette. So this cassette would then in theory be full of toilet waste. To empty this, slide this nozzle forward, unscrew the cap off the end like so. With the cap off the end, turn the whole cassette upside down, pour the waste away through that funnel. So the sites have got designated waste points, but this can be put down a toilet. As you're pouring the waste away, press this button in here. It lets air in as the liquid is glugging out of the bottom. It stops it splashing back and gives a smoother flow. This cassette requires chemical to break down all the smells and solids that go into it. To fill it, once you've emptied it, what I tend to do is slide this back here, open up the cassette with that nozzle, fill it full of fresh water again, give it a swill and then empty it again. It's then ready to put the chemical in, so you pour the required amount of chemical, just a lining in the bottom, a little bit of water, make sure that this is closed, slide this back on, and then it's ready to place back in the motorhome and ready to be used again. You can see this has got wheels and an extendable handle so that you can wheel it over to the disposal point with ease. Before you put it back in, just make sure that that's clipped in like so. Put a handle on the top and slide that back in. There's an indication on the toilet itself to tell you when that's full, but you can actually see down the toilet. The chemical is bright blue, so you can actually see the levels that it's reaching. Working on around the motorhome, then we've got more storage here. So it's a tow locker. That's a towing eye. Should you ever need to be towed, that screws into a panel that's clipped off the front bumper, and that's the means of towing the vehicle. With these catches that are on all these lockers, so that's open, what you do is close it, spin these around, put the key into this barrel, lock it, and then push these in, and that's what keeps them in position. Again, we've got another storage locker here with the carpets in there rolled up. Underneath this locker is the waste water tank, as indicated by that sticker. So when the wastewater's full, there's a control panel that tells you. You can monitor the levels of that. To operate that, it's underneath here. Okay, so you can see that grey pipe, that's where the waste comes out. This handle here, you pull that to empty it and push it in to close it. Okay, so that's closed. I'll give it a pull. That's in the open position. Again, very important that that is drained down for winter. If that's left full and freezes, it'll form ice in the tank, expand and crack the tank. This motorhome has been fitted with an awning, and there is a separate video on our YouTube channel to show you how to operate that Fiamma awning. These are the vents for the fridge. What it does is it draws cool air in at the bottom and expels warm air at the top. Again, it's a vent on the side of the motorhome, just needs to be kept clean and free of debris. If you're washing the motorhome using a power washer, then just be careful not to spray up into these vents. They're designed for water to run off, as you can see they're ridged. If you spray up into there, you're spraying water into the motorhome. Underneath that is a retrospectively fitted external aerial, I think that is, because this motorhome's actually been fitted with some television reception device on the roof, which we'll come to in a second. I think that concludes the outside section of the motorhome, and I'll move on to the inside. Okay, so we're inside the motorhome now in the main entrance habitation door. Above that is the control panel. So the first button we come to here is switching the control panel on. It basically switches your 12 volt on as well. That can be left on, but it's probably better to, when the vehicle's not in use, to switch both of these off. This has got a solar panel on it, but I think the solar panel actually operates without the need for this being switched on. To get your lights on and your 12 volt circuit up and running, then it's this button here. So I don't think the pump will work without that being on. So basically you've got two on buttons next to each other. The next one along here is the water pump. Okay, so that energizes the water pump. When you first fill up with water, you're filling up your tank. You've got to then pump it through the system via your tap. So switch your pump on, come to your tap, switch it on hot, and wait until you get a pure flow of water coming out of there. What that does is it fills the boiler up, ready for use. If you don't do that and you switch your boiler on, you're basically just heating thin air inside the boiler, which can damage it. What you then do is switch to the cold side, again wait until the tap stops spluttering, and then you know that all the pipe work is full of water instead of air. So it's called purging the system. You can actually leave the water pump switched on if you want to. It uses a pressure system. It senses that the pressure's dropped, and then the pump will run. You can switch it off at night because sometimes the pump will give a blurt of it'll run periodically during the night, which can wake you up. That's your external light, so your only light outside. So down here we've got the battery level. Okay, so if you press that button, that's telling you about your leisure battery. So we've got over 2/3 full. This one here tells you about your cab battery, as denoted by the picture of the cab. This tells you about your fresh water situation. So it's just picking up a small residue in the bottom of the tank. Those sensors are not deadly accurate. They are just designed as a rough guide to where you are with your water situation. And that will adjust the brightness of this control panel. Behind me is a bed, and if people are sleeping in there, then they may not want these bright lights keeping them awake. Here we have a flashing light for the wastewater, so that's telling us that the wastewater, there's no wastewater in this, so that's an indication to tell you regarding the levels of your wastewater. If you've got a main supply coming into the motorhome, a light will illuminate here, so that's a good indication that your mains is all operational. Next to that we've got so we've got the heating system here. So this is the control panel for the heating. To wake this control panel up, you press a button in the center there, and this is like a wheel. So the first picture we've got there is the motorhome heating. So if you press the center of the wheel and then turn the wheel, you can select your desired temperature. So if we said 22 degrees and then press the wheel again, that's it, it's set on 22 degrees. I'm going to go back into that menu and turn that off. Okay, and then another click of the wheel, we're on to the water temperature. So you've got two options, in fact you've got three options: off, eco, which is 40 degrees, hot, which is 60 degrees. I'd just leave it on hot and mix it with the cold water, so you've got a lot of warm water. The next one is boost. Now what that'll do is take all the energy from the heating of the motorhome and allocate it to the heating of the water. So you want a lot of hot water very quickly, switch it to boost, and that'll give you that. The next one along is your required fuel. Okay, so if you go into this menu, you've got electric. Let's have a look. So we've got fuel, which is diesel fuel, a mix of fuel and electric on 1 kilowatt, a mix of fuel and electric on 2 kilowatt, electric only on 1 kilowatt, electric only on 2 kilowatts. If you want to come out of any of these menus, then you just press this back button here. The next one along, as you can see it flashing there, if you just want to switch it to vent, and when the heating is actually switched on, it will allow you to control the fan speed. If you don't do anything with that, the fan will run at a speed which is relevant to the temperature that it needs to reach. Okay. Next one along here is a timer, so you can set it to come on at a certain time and off at a certain time. That allows you to set your time clock. And then the next one along is settings. I won't go into that now for the purposes of this demonstration, but there is a settings menu there. There's an instruction manual explaining how all that works. To switch this off, it's a long press on the wheel. That's the control panel off for the heating. There's a light switch just here next to the mirror, which will switch the lights on. There's also some more light switches just here. This one's got a television carrier, so to open this up you press that little lever there, slide this out, mount your television onto there. If you want to swivel that, it will do so, and it'll also tilt via that mechanism there. In the cupboard next to that we've got the monitor for the solar panel, so that monitors the charge that's going into the battery so it doesn't overcharge it. Here we've got the control module for the satellite dish, which has been fitted to this. I've tested it and it's found the Astra 2 satellite, which is the UK satellite. The on-off button for this is just on the top. So these control buttons here will allow you to adjust your satellite, but as I say, Astra 2 is the UK satellite. When I came to switch this on, I just switched it on and it found the satellite straight away. So underneath that we've got the fridge. To switch this on, it's a long press on this button here. Okay, so you've got two control buttons here. This one is... Okay, so we've got a fuel button here. If you press this button repeatedly here, it'll let you scroll through the various fuels. So gas, it'll run perfectly efficiently on gas. Obviously it's got to ignite. It can take a while for the gas to reach the fridge from the bottle, so you might have to switch it on and off a few times. If a little symbol comes up here with a spanner, it means it's not ignited. Switch the fridge off, start again. Okay, so next one is, as we can see there, it's not ignited on gas. Next one along is mains electric. Okay, so again, run perfectly efficiently on mains electric. Next one along is 12 volt. That will only work when the engine is running, and it will only keep the fridge cool. It'll take forever to get cold on that, so you need to get it cold first and then switch to 12 volt. The other option you've got here is A, which is auto. Okay, so if you select that, it'll automatically select the most relevant power source. It'll look for mains electric first, then gas, then 12 volt. It saves you the bother of having to remember to switch over your supply. This is a temperature control, so if it's really hot, you want the fridge to work harder, as this control indicates here. If it's freezing cold day, then there's no point having that on hot, it'll just ice the fridge up. So this is relevant to the ambient temperature. To switch that off, you just press this button here. Open the fridge up, don't leave this fridge with the door closed in storage. It will give a pungent smell because you've got stagnant air built up. Okay, we've got the bedroom here. To operate the toilet, basically you lift the lid, slide this across here, which opens up the valve. Use the toilet, close it back, use the toilet, press the flush button, which is this one here, and then remember to close it back up. If you don't close it back up, it will be sloshing around as you're travelling. When the cassette's full, that light will illuminate there. Customer asked us to make sure that the duct boards are in here, which they are. When you're travelling, just take the hose out of the shower and lay it flat, because if that falls out and falls onto the plastic tray, it can damage the tray. Okay, so this has got the drop down bed and the controls for that. You need to have the key in that there. Behind that panel, that white plastic panel, is the motor. Okay, so to operate the bed, the key here must be in that position. If the bed ever gets stuck or the battery goes flat or you blow the fuse for the bed, this panel here can be removed off. It reveals the motor, and there's a winder that goes into there, that will allow you to draw the bed up and down manually. The bed controls are just here underneath the sink. So you press the button down on there, it allows the bed to be drawn down. Okay, so the bed stops automatically in that position. Bed ladder's on top of the bed there, as you can see, and it clips onto these clips here. So the table, while the bed's going up, I'll just show you that, is a leaf table, so it'll fold over, it's hinged, like so. And then there's a support when you do that, that supports the leaf like so. To swivel the seat around, the table around, you lift that little lever up there and it'll allow you to turn the table. To lower the table, if you should wish to do so, to make it into like a small coffee table, you press that lever up there and press hard down onto the centre, but you need to press in the area that the post is. Obviously if you press on that end, you're just going to bend the table, so the table is adjustable in that regard. Okay, so that concludes the demonstrational video. If there's anything that you think I've missed, I'd be happy to go through that on the day that you collect the new motorhome, or just give me a call and I'll run through it with you. So we look forward to seeing you on the happy day that you collect this beautiful new Chausson Welcome 757 motorhome.